Welcome to Fantasia, home of the Melodious. My name's Azallea, and today, gonna be bringing you guys another update to my Lunalight deck. Now, before we begin, I just want to preface this by saying that at the time of this recording, I may or may not have seen the leaks that have been posted online depicting the possible importation of some cards such as Kaleidoscope Crimson Fox and Recess Starling in the upcoming set of Circuit Break. Now, with that being said, if these cards are confirmed and they do get released, then you can expect an update to all of my decks that contain those cards in the upcoming weeks. But until then, let's just jump right into the one we have right now. So, starting off, we are playing one copy of Lunalight White Rabbit. Now, White Rabbit is a fantastic card, and I decided to put her back in. I excluded her from previous deck profiles because of the fact that she conflicted with a lot of my normal summons like Predator Orpheus Scorpio and Armageddon Knight. Now, this build does not run the Predaplants, so I've cut down a lot of my normal summon options in this deck, and so I believe that White Rabbit does have a little niche that she can fill by being in here, so that's why she's here. There are some combos that's really nice with her as well, and I can probably showcase those in a combo video sometime in the future. But she's also really great for baiting out back row like Psalm Strike and such. People like to negate her so that she can't just bounce back and clear all the back row and then let you go into your combos without any form of opposition. Now, it's fine to only run one copy because she's highly searchable in this deck, and she's very easy to recover, especially with this card. Lunalight Black Sheep. We're playing 3 copies of her because she allows us to search out our fusion spell polymerization, and she allows us to recover resources from our graveyard or our extra deck when she's used as a material for a fusion summon. So that's very, very nice. And both of these are level 2, so you can go for rank 2 plays. And, of course, the standard White Rabbit Black Sheep combo gives you the Lunalight Cat Dancer on your field, which is pretty nice. Now, the next card that we play, 3 copies of Lunalight Blue Cat. You need 3 copies of her. She is the only level 4 Lunalight monster we currently have in the TCG. Maybe that will change soon, but as of right now, you need to play 3 copies because she enables a lot of rank 4 plays, and she's a great floater for the deck as well. So if she's destroyed by battle or by card effect, she can summon any other Lunalight monster straight from your deck to your side of the field. So that's always very nice to help you stay alive and to also go through more copies of Blue Cat so that you can use revival cards that this archetype has to swarm your field with more monsters, to either go for link summons or to go for rank 4 or fusion plays. Now, talking about revival cards in this archetype, we have 3 copies of Lunalight Tiger. Now, Lunalight Tiger, her potential has gone down ever since Broad Bowl got hit on the ban list because not only are the Lunalights way less searchable, but you also don't have access to Trident because Trident was the one that enabled extra plays in the archetype because you're able to pop your Lunalight Tiger in your Pendulum Scale and continue reviving more monsters and going off. But as it stands right now, she's still a pretty good card, and you can still recycle her pretty well with some of the options that I'm going to get into in just a bit. Now, the next card that we play, last Lunalight monster, is 1 copy of Lunalight Wolf. You don't really need more than 1 copy. You're rarely ever going to summon her, and she's really there to help you summon your Lunalight Leo Dancer to help you swing for a game. Sometimes you'll be pendulum summoning monsters from your extra deck, such as Lunalight Tiger, or pendulum summoning monsters from your hand, such as Lunalight Blue Cat, to help you boost the attack of another Lunalight fusion that you have, so you can easily go and swing for game. Okay, so going into some of the non-Lunalight monsters that we play, we're playing the Dark Engine in this deck. So that includes 3 copies of Armageddon Knight. Armageddon Knight is here as a replacement, kind of, for Lunalight Kaleidoscope, which we don't have yet in the TCG, but anyway, Armageddon Knight here. Kaleidoscope, if she gets released, doesn't really replace the Armageddon Knight, but Armageddon Knight is a great facilitator for plays and gets more monsters onto our side of the field, thins our deck, and allows us to set up for cards like Lunalight Tiger over here. So that's why Armageddon Knight is actually really, really good. The next card that we play is 1 copy of Blackwing Zephyros the Elite. Now, Zephyros is here because it's a nice target to send with your Armageddon Knight if you already have like Blue Cat set up in your graveyard, because Zephyros can actually bounce back cards like Fire Formation Tenki, which become more and more important because of the hit to Broad Bowl, so that's really our only search card in the deck, except for like Perfume, but Perfume's kind of different in how you search. You need some setup before that. But yeah, so Zephyros is also also really good for bouncing back the Lunalight Tiger in your pendulum scale, so you can go and revive more cards by reactivating Tiger in your scale and bringing something else back. And it's also good to note that all of these cards, of course, are dark. That's why we call it the Dark Engine, and it has a lot of synergy with some other draw cards like Allure of Darkness that we're going to get into in just a bit. Now, to cap off the monsters and the, I guess, text, we also play 3 copies of Blackwing Gofu the Vague Shadow. I guess you can call this a mini, quote-unquote, Blackwing engine now, but anyway, Gofu is just really nice, because when you control no monsters, you can just special summon it straight from your hand, and then you can special summon 2 tokens to your side of the field. And of course, these can be used to help you link summon into your Decode Talkers, right? Using Proxy Dragon and using Link Spider with the tokens and the Gofu itself. Gofu is actually also very nice because it's a level 5 tuner, so you can actually go for some synchro plays and summon things like Omega or Ignister or whatever you prefer in this deck. But we'll get into that when we get into the side deck. I mean, sorry, the extra deck. But Gofu's just there to help us set up for decent plays. And if you get Decode Talker on your side of the field, it opens up 2 zones for you to summon extra deck monsters to, which is pretty nice, because Lunalights have a lot of potential to just spam the field with extra deck monsters. They're just limited by the restrictions of the link mechanic as of right now. But anyway, to cap off the monsters, we do play some hand traps. So we play 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, one of the best hand traps in the game right now, especially with the upcoming spirals that are probably going to be meta. And just because of the fact that a lot of field spells haven't gotten hit, such as Draconic Diagram and things like that, which are very, very popular in a lot of decks like True Dracos and whatever's left of Dinosaurs. Yeah, so Ghost Ogre is still a very, very good card to hit those types of combo pieces. And of course, we have to cap off the monster count with 1 copy of Max C. Decks like Spirals that are coming up are just super, super special summon reliant, and you can potentially get a lot of draws if you catch them at a really bad time, where it's either they combo off or they bust. So yeah, that does it for the monsters. Next off, we're going to go into the spell cards. Okay, so for these spell cards, starting off, we are playing 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki, and as I mentioned earlier, this card is so much more important than it has ever been because of the fact that we have lost Brawl Ball, so we've lost a lot of consistency with our searches, but Tenki is still here and we can still bounce it back with Zephyros if we need to reuse it. Next off, we are playing 2 copies of Polymerization, which is our fusion spell for the deck. Really, really good for, of course, just going for our Lunalight fusions, and a couple of extra techs in the extra deck as well. And speaking of techs, we also tech 1 copy of Fusion Substitute. I don't like playing 3 copies of Polymerization, especially because now that Daigusto Emerald got banned, so Fusion Substitute is a great way to help recycle some of our fusion monsters while giving us some extra draws to work with. So that's always really nice. I'll just put that right there. And because we don't have Kaleido Chick yet, we have to play 2 copies of Fusion Recovery. I really don't like playing this card, and I really hope we get Kaleido Chick soon. But Fusion Recovery allows us to target 1 Polymerization and 1 Fusion Material monster in our graveyard and add them to our hand. So you can gain some nice advantage with this card, but it's not good. It's not a good draw to fix a bad hand, right? Cards like Kaleido Chick can easily help you fix a potentially bad hand just by drawing into her, but this card, it's only really good mid to late game. You don't really want to see it really early on in the game, especially because now we're restricted to 1 extra deck monster at a time unless you go for links. Yeah, but it does help us fusion climb from like Cat Dancer to Panther Dancer and potentially into Leo Dancer depending on how many resources you have. So it's not too bad of a card. There are just better options that we could potentially be getting soon. Okay, anyway, moving on, we have 3 copies of Lunalight Perfume. Now, this is the Monster Reborn of the deck in spell form. So you can target 1 Lunalight monster in your graveyard and special summon it, and you can also banish this card from your graveyard and then discard 1 card, and add 1 Lunalight monster from your deck to your hand. This card is absolutely insane with no once per turn restrictions at all, so that's why you play 3, and it's also really good because the fact that, you know, you can just summon a blue cat and boost something up, go for a quick search, and then continue going off all your plays from there. Okay, the next card that we play is 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. We play a lot of dark monsters in this deck, all the Lunalights except for the Pendulum ones. We play Armageddon Knight, Zephyros, even Gofu. They're all dark, so it's very good synergy with the deck in order to help you dig deeper and go for more draws. So next off for these spells, we have 3 copies of Twin Twisters. This is just to help us clear a lot of the back row, mostly because Solemn Strike is very, very accessible now due to all of its reprints, and we don't really want to have our plays negated. So being able to snipe those important back row pieces out from our opponent, and also, you know, during your opponent's end phase, you can snipe back row as well, so to prevent yourself from getting Dimensional Barriered, or to get potentially Cosmic Cyclone to stop your Lunalight Tiger plays. Twin Twist is just a phenomenal card all around. It also helps you set up your graveyard by getting rid of some dead cards in your hand, like some extra Gofu, sets up Perfume. It's just really good, has a lot of synergy with this deck. So the next card that we play is 2 copies of Pot of Desires. Now, Pot of Desires is one of those very controversial cards where people are like, I don't really want to play it because it, you know, you lose so many cards from your deck. In this deck, we don't really mind banishing 10 cards face down in order to get 2 draws. Mostly because we play 3 copies of, like, all the important cards, and then the cards we play one ofs like Lunalight Wolf and White Rabbit, we can easily search out with Perfume, Tenki, or what have you. So that's why Pot of Desires is actually a very good card to have. We really just want to see more combo pieces, and that's why Broad Bowl was just so good, because we just got to see more of those combo pieces to allow us to set up for all these plays, and we can just go off. Desires pretty much achieves the same thing in conjunction with like Allure of Darkness, where you just you know, you just want to see more cards in your hand to work with. So that's why we play 2 copies of those. Phenomenal card. You don't want to play 3 because this card is a 42 card deck, and if you know, draw into another Pot of Desires after activating a Pot of Desires, that's not really good. It's just another dead card in your hand, and you want to minimize that. Okay, so the next card that we play is 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army, of course to help us see that Armageddon Knight faster so we can set up our graveyard for future turns. Okay, and that does it for the main deck, so next off we're going to go into the side deck. Okay, so for the side deck, starting off, we are playing 3 copies of DD Crow. Now, DD Crow, phenomenal card right now, especially with the upcoming spirals. You get to snipe so many important cards, especially cards like Destrudo, which is going to be teched into so many decks to enable Synchro Summons. It's going to be ridiculous. So DD Crow's amazing for that. It's also a Dark attribute, so you can actually banish it with your Allure of Darkness if you don't want to banish any of your other combo pieces. That's always nice. And also, having extra hand traps in this format is just absolutely phenomenal, so don't pass it up. Speaking of hand traps, we are also siding 3 copies of Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. Now, this is also a dark monster, so again, more synergy with that Allure of Darkness, but also because the fact that a lot of people are starting to play simple and basic links like Link Spider, Proxy Dragon, Decode Talkers. Those are the more common ones, and because we play those as well, it's very easy to hinder somebody's play by using Ghost Reaper on them, right? And then once the Spiral Link comes out and things like that, if you can just reveal that from your extra deck, then you're going to be able to hit so many players and their potential combos. So that's always really great to have. Okay, the next card that we play is 1 copy of Raigeki for the field clears, especially if you're going second. This is really great to just help you clear the field so you can go and just start attacking directly with a lot of your monsters, because Lunalights have pretty easy time swarming the field. We just have a difficult time accessing our extra deck stuff because of the link mechanic now. Okay, so next off we're playing 2 copies of Shared Ride, because Shared Ride, again, I explained this in my Melodious deck profile, I really like this card because it's basically like a Max C, except that it's for every time your opponent adds a card from their deck or their graveyard to their hand, instead of every time they special summon. Now, Shared Ride, it's really good against decks like Pendulum Magicians where they search a lot. It's also pretty good against Spirals too, except Spirals can more or less just stop and you know, try to work with what they have. Pendulum Magicians, they kind of need to combo off and get their setup going, or else they're going to get blown out by your Lunalight. So that's why Shared Ride is really good. It's just a win-win situation when you activate it. Okay, so the next card that we play is 3 copies of Lost Wind. You could play Solemn Strikes. I just prefer Lost Wind because you can activate during the damage calculation, and you can also use it to have your opponent's monsters attack points as well. So when you run over them, it's going to be much easier to do that. And you're going to inflict a lot more damage with cards like Panther Dancer. So that's why I really do love this card. And it can come back from the graveyard if your opponent summons from the extra deck, which seems to be a bit more common now because, you know, True Dracos got hit very hard. So Lost Wind, it can reset itself, and then once it leaves the field, then it gets banished, but you can always put it back with cards like Omega. So that's always really nice. And if this does get banished with cards like Pod Desires, it gets banished face down, Omega can just take that and put it back to your graveyard. So now you have some form of recurring negation that keeps coming back. And it's going to be pretty difficult for your opponent to play around, especially if you have other cards that are very disruptive to your opponent as well in the form of hand traps. And the last card that I play in this deck is 3 copies of Full Force Virus. Now, this card is just absolutely insane. So you get to tribute 1 Dark Monster with 2,000 or more defense, check your opponent's hand, all the monsters they control, and all cards they draw until the end of their third turn after this card's activation, and destroy all of those monsters with 1,500 or less defense. Now, this not only gives you a lot of information about what your opponent has, but it's also an amazing way to just nuke your opponent's field and nuke your opponent's hand on their turn. You know, if you nuke them mid-combo, you know, they searched out Spiral Sleeper or something like that, they have the super agents and stuff in hand, you can just flip this card, tribute one of your Lunalight fusions, free up your extra monster zone, nuke all of their cards, and then on your turn, you know, Perfume can just monster reborn your fusions back to your side of the field, and then now you've freed up your extra monster zone for some potential future plays. So I just absolutely love this card, and there's so much synergy that it has with the extra deck monsters in this deck. So that's why I play it. So yeah, that does it for the side deck. Next off, we're going to go into the extra deck. Okay, so for the extra deck, starting off, we are playing 1 copy of Link Spider. Now, Link Spider is very easy to summon with just one of Gofu's tokens, so that you can summon this into one of the extra monster zones. It has an arrow pointing down, so you can summon something under it from your extra deck, which is pretty nice. Normally, you're going to use the leftover token and Gofu itself to summon something like Proxy Dragon. Now, Proxy Dragon, if you summon this right under Link Spider, opens up 2 of your monster zones up to extra deck monsters. So you can summon, you know, maybe a rank 4 here and one of the fusions here, and now you have a pretty decent setup to go off of. And that's why these 2 are here, and that's why Gofu is just an amazing enabler for this deck. Now, what you could do is after you summon stuff out, you can use Link Spider and Proxy Dragon to actually link summon the Decode Talker. Now, Decode Talker is just phenomenal in this deck as well because it offers targeting protection for your cards as long as something is there for it to tribute that its link markers are pointing to. Now, the amazing thing about the Decode Talker is that it protects your Panther Dancer, and your Panther Dancer has built-in protection from destruction. Now, with Decode Talker's targeting protection on it, is basically like a weaker Leo Dancer that's on the field that's much easier to summon and access. So that's why I absolutely love this card in this deck. That's why it's there. So it's only 3 Link monsters, but it's very basic, but it does really help a lot. And of course, you can use your Ghost Reaper, reveal these cards, and force your opponent to banish their copies of these cards as well. Okay, so next off, we're going to go in some of the XYZs. This first one is going to be the Phantom Knights of Cursed Javelin. I absolutely love Cursed Javelin. That's one of the reasons why I actually put the White Rabbit back into this deck. There are some pretty neat combos that you can do with this card as well that I'll get into, in a future video. But Cursed Javelin is just amazing because you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card, then target 1 face-up monster that your opponent controls until the end of this turn, change the attack of that monster to 0, and it has its effects negated. So this is just absolutely insane for OTKs with your Lunalight fusions because you'll be dealing a ton of damage to your opponent. At minimum, you're probably going to be dealing like 5,600 with Panther Dancer. So really great way to just surprise close the game on your opponent with this card. Okay, so the next card that we play is 1 copy of Castel, the Sky Blaster Musketeer. He's just really here for simple removal of problem monsters that are on the field. Next off, we're also playing 1 copy of Tornado Dragon. Now, Tornado Dragon's really only here for spell and trap removal in the form of field spells. Twin Twisters can really deal with most of the back row that we're going to be up against, but Tornado Dragon's really good for sniping Spiral Resort or for sniping Draconic Diagram right from under your opponent so they can't, go off on their combos. So that's why he's really nice. That's also a really good first turn rank 4 to go for. Now, speaking of first turn rank 4s, it's a little bit more difficult to achieve in this deck, so this is going to be like a second or third turn rank 4, is going to be Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Tiger King. Now, the normal setup with this card is you summon Kaleido Chick if it comes into the TCG. You'll send something like a Blue Cat or a Crimson Fox. You'll revive that card with like Lunalight Tiger or Perfume, and then you can overlay both of those for your Tiger King. Unfortunately, we can't do that with Armageddon Knight because it's a warrior type monster, but you know, if you do set up that Blue Cat early on, if Blue Cat gets destroyed, you know, summons another one from the deck, and then during your next turn you can use your Tiger or your Perfume to revive the one that got destroyed. Now you have 2 Blue Cats on the field. You can overlay for Tiger King, get a free Tenki, get a free search. So that's why still love this card in this deck. So that does it for the XYZs, but we also have one synchro, so I'm just going to do this right here. We play 1 copy of Psyframe Lord Omega. Now, I've talked about this before. You would just use Lunalight Tiger and Gofu to easily summon out this card, and Omega is just great for recycling some of your banished cards like Lost Wind, or anything that you needed that you banished with Potted Desires. So, resources just basically cycle around in this deck. It's pretty easy to get the flow of things once things get going. So Psyframe Lord Omega also just allows you to snipe a card from your opponent's hand, which is pretty nice. The less they have to work with, the better it is for you. So that does it for this portion of the extra deck, and now we're going to go into the fusions. So for the fusions, we're starting off, of course, with 2 copies of Lunalight Cat Dancer. Now, Cat Dancer is the first stage of our Lunalight summons, and Lunalights don't really suffer too much from links because of the fact that you can just ladder climb. So Lunalight Cat Dancer can actually be used as one of the materials to summon Lunalight Panther Dancer. And Panther Dancer, of course, is very, very good in this deck. It's basically like the boss monster, and she has built-in protection from destruction effects, so Raigeki and Mirror Force don't really do much at all to this deck, and Panther Dancer, with the help of Decode Talker, becomes very, very powerful. And if you boost this card with like Blue Cat, bring her to 5600 attack, you're going to be doing massive amounts of damage to your opponent, just potentially OTKing out of nowhere. So that's why she's absolutely phenomenal. Now, the next card that we play is 1 copy of Lunalight Leo Dancer. This is like a last-ditch effort card where, you know, your opponent's low on life points, they have a pretty decent field, and you're out of most of your resources. You'll summon the Leo Dancer out, has targeting and destruction protection, has 3500 attack, and you're just going to ram into something and use her effect and clear their field of all the special summon monsters that they have. It is so, so good for ending games, and you only really need 1. If it does somehow get kaiju'd or something, you summon it too early, you can always put it back with your fusion substitute and then summon it again later. The next card that we play is 1 copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. Very good card to play in this deck because we have so many dark monsters, and since not everything's a Lunalight monster, you can't always go for your Lunalight Fusion. So, you know, you can use things like Zephyros and Armageddon Knight, or even your Gofu as material for the Starving Venom, and he's just a really great way to smack your opponent for a lot of damage as well. Now, the last card that I play, I couldn't find my copy actually, is actually going to be First of the Dragons. So this is just going to be here to represent First of Dragons, but First of Dragons is unaffected by other monsters' effects, and it can only be destroyed by battle with a normal monster. So against decks like Spirals, they really don't have an out unless they have like Utility Wire or something like that. So that's why I absolutely love this card. It's really great, and there is a combo with this card and Omega where you can summon these first turn, and it's just absolutely amazing. You snipe a card from your opponent's hand, and you have First of Dragons on the field, just protecting you. So unless your opponent has like Spell and Trap removal that they can use to get rid of this card, you should be pretty good sitting with a pretty nice defensive monster on your side of the field. So that's why I play 1 copy of that. So yeah, that does it for the extra deck, and that does it for the deck profile. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please leave a like, subscribe for more Lunalight content, and leave a comment down below letting me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care.